Atiśa's hot teacher advice. The fifth advice is work will never end. So put projects aside and be still. Dedicate all your virtue day and night and keep constant guard over your mind. Yep, that's fifth. So this verse offers profound advice for spiritual practitioners. As you know, worldly responsibilities are endless, right? There will always be something more to do. So if you wait for the perfect time to engage in deep practice, Atiśa said, that time may never come. It's true that working people often feel like it never really ends if you don't put it aside, especially if you are attached to it. Work will always be there, right? But your time will not. So what is the key to finding a good balance between fulfilling your responsibilities and protecting your well-being? From the Buddhist viewpoint, work is not inherently good or bad, but how you relate it to it and how it affects your mind is key. Some people say, I want to work until I die. They love working. Other people say, I don't want to work. They hate working. So I think work is really good for worldly people, only worldly people. Very good. But it's not good for spiritual practitioners. They think, I want to practice. I don't want to waste my precious time. They think no matter how much I accomplish, there will always be more to do. According to Buddhism, work should not be done just out of attachment. Work should be done with a good intention of contributing to the well-being of yourself and others. It would be great if you try to cultivate a sense of purpose in your work that is not just about yourself, whether it is through serving others or maintaining a harmonious environment or whatever is done with good intentions is the key and makes it meaningful. Working in places with negative energy can lead to stress, frustration, lack of compassion, and create bad karma. So, in my opinion, you should not work for those places that harm others and harm the environment. So, reflecting on how your work benefits others, including yourself, and contributes to the world is important. And more importantly, find a balance between doing what's necessary and find space for your practice. So I think you have to avoid both overwork, which can lead to burn you out, and also underwork, which can also lead to difficulties for your life, right? So the middle way helps you to understand work is necessary, but doesn't allow it to dominate your life and your precious time, so that you have time for rest, time for practice. The key is working with the right attitude and with a sense of purpose and with a good balance. That is what Atiśa, I think, advised here. And then he said, dedicate all your virtue day and night, right? So, and then uh, you should dedicate any goodness, merit, and positive actions you do in your work, dedicate towards the benefit of all beings. And dedication involves a deep sense of a kind heart. Dedication is important for developing your merit. So if you work with both these good intention and dedication, your work would be very beneficial. So then you don't have to feel like, I don't want to work. This is meaningless. You don't have to feel that way. That's why it says dedicate all your virtue day and night. Doing this day and night means making it a continuous sort of habit, right? You should dedicate every day. You go to work, do something good, right? And then when you're done, dedicate. Not just an occasional like thought. Day and night means continue. You have to make habit this in your mind. Good intention, dedicate. That's always you. I think it's important when you work, those people who are working now. And then Atiśa says, keep constant guard over your mind. The mind is the source of both happiness and suffering. The mind is always restless, constantly thinking. So, being fully aware of thoughts and emotions in daily life is the purpose of practice in Buddhism, or benefit, practice in Buddhism. So, when negative emotions like anger or jealousy arise, recognize them as soon as possible and replace them with kindness. That is how you practice Buddhism, right? That's why meditation is a powerful method in Buddhism to prevent and control these kind of negative emotions and negative thoughts. So in Buddhism, keeping constant guard over your mind is about developing mindfulness. With mindfulness, you can tame your mind, and the more dedicated you are to these practices, the more you will be able to maintain clarity, peace, and wisdom, and avoid being overwhelmed by all the distractions and negative emotions and negative thoughts. Because of that, eventually it will be possible to be liberated from the suffering of samsara. So that's why keeping constant, Atiśa said, keeping constant God over your mind, no matter what you do and in your daily life. When you're in work or when you are meditating, always always observe all these things, thoughts and emotions, right? So that's the fifth. The next sixth advice is you will not become a meditator from only receiving instructions. So put the words of the Guru into practice. If you practice with great respect, then before too long, results will come quickly. This verse also offers very profound advice. Okay? It says, you will not become a meditator from only receiving instructions. Just to listen to teachings and reading books or attending meditation session does not make you a good meditator. Meditation is something that must be done, not just understood intellectually. So you will not be liberated simply by receiving teachings, instructions from a teacher, but through engaging deeply with those instructions and integrating them into daily life. So this means actually sitting in meditation, observing the mind, and integrating wisdom into your actions. Real transformation happens through personal experience, and that experience arises through meditation. That's why Buddha said, very famous teaching, like, I have shown you the methods that lead to liberation, but you should know that liberation depends upon yourself. Similarly, Atisha's hard advice here is very clear. He says, don't just take instructions intellectually, but practice them and let them be part of your life and tame your mind. If you do that, then your liberation is not far away. It says, if you practice with great respect, then before too long, results will come quickly. Great respect refers not only the teachers, but also to deep trust in the practice itself and yourself. When you practice with respect and consistency, then the result naturally grow. So this verse directly tells us that realization doesn't come from just collecting teachings, but from deeply engaging with them. If you do that, the results will come quickly. Okay? Then the seventh advice is if you practice Dharma wholeheartedly, your livelihood happens incidentally. That's how it goes. Dear friends, be content. Desire will never satisfy you. Like drinking salt water, it makes you more thirsty. Beautiful. When you dedicate yourself fully to Dharma practice, basically he's saying that then your food, your clothing, your livelihood will happen naturally without making any plan. This non-attachment and satisfaction can bring you everything effortlessly. And if you generate positive karma through your practice, then this karmic seed brings sport and opportunities. The idea is that your commitment to Dharma leads to the right circumstances and opportunities for your livelihood to arise naturally. So therefore, it says if you practice Dharma wholeheartedly, your livelihood happens instinctually. You see, the great teachers like, Longchenpa, Paptor Rinpoche, Milarepa, like Atiśa himself, they practiced Dharma wholeheartedly with satisfaction. What happens to them is they become a great leaders of Buddhism. The point here is when you practice Dharma wholeheartedly, you cultivate a sense of satisfaction rather than constantly clinging for more and more and more. In Buddhist teachings, fulfilling desires doesn't bring satisfaction, but rather increases craving, like drinking salt water. That's why Atiśa says here, dear friends, be content. Because this practice can reduce the stress of dissatisfaction. That's why Buddhism teaches the cultivation of renunciation, right? Not as a rejection of your life or the world, but as a recognition that The true happiness is not found in the fulfillment of desire and attachment. So this verse is teaching on trust, right? First line, and contentment, and recognizing that chasing desires only leads to more craving and attachment. And true peace, happiness comes from letting go. That is the meaning of this advice, this teaching. um, Now, the next, uh, that's eighth. I think eighth advice is avoid all self-concept, arrogance, and yourselves humble and timid. Even so-called meritorious busyness is an obstacle for Dharma practice. So give it up. In Buddhism, arrogance, especially the spiritual sort of pride, is a big obstacle. Even if you have knowledge and experience, but are considered arrogance, makes your practice not genuine, right? So it says, make yourself humble and timid. Atiśa says here, make yourself humble and timid. It refers to cultivating self-discipline, right? It makes you humble, gentle, and then your practice authentic. With a selfish or arrogant motivation, even meritorious actions become an obstacle to authentic Dharma practice. So here, like meritorious actions, such as acts of prostrations, circumambulations, making offerings, and generosity are generally beneficial and virtuous, because through these actions you can make accumulations and they can lead to positive outcomes. But the key point here is that they can become an obstacle to true Dharma practice if you are still attached to the result of those actions. This doesn't mean avoiding these beneficial activities, but recognizing when they become distraction for your deeper practice. So that's why I always say, if you practice bodhicitta, you don't have to do circumambulations and making offerings and prostrations. And also, meritorious actions with attachment can create a sense of arrogance that distracts from the deeper practice of Dharma, even if outwardly virtuous. if you perform a good action, but your motivation is based on the desire for worldly life, then the action becomes an obstacle for Dharma practice. So, so Atisha says here, you don't need all these actions if you practice genuine Dharma. Genuine Dharma means like all these things he advises us. Tame your mind, practice bodhicitta, meditate on mindfulness. These are practice genuine Dharma. Now, the ninth advice is honor and gain are the traps of Mara. Cast them away like stones on the road. Words of praise and fame will lead you to astray. Abandon them aside like spit. Even if happiness, well-being, and relatives are all together here and now, it is only for a moment, so leave them behind. This verse is a direct teaching on kind of renunciation. Mara here represents illusions and distractions that keep us trapped in samsara. Because honor and gain may seem beneficial, but they create attachment and ego. In Buddhism, honor and gain are deceptive. Seeking honor or recognition from others can lead to pride and a sense of separation from others. And desire for gain also leads to attachment, which can create a lot of obstacles for Dharma practice. Of course, worldly people want gain, pleasure, and fame. Of course. Worldly people want these kind of things. But we, as Dharma practitioners, should not be concerned with all these things. But it's very difficult because deep down inside of us, fundamentally, there's this strong attachment and selfishness. It's difficult to avoid these things. Great Master Longchenpa said, whoever is preoccupied by these worldly concerns is like a very sick person in bed. It means no matter how often a sick person changes their position, it is so difficult to find a comfort because basically you're sick. Likewise, as long as our minds are captivated by these things, then it is difficult not to engage in these worldly concerns. So, Atiśa advised us to ignore them like stones on the road or toss them aside like spit. The metaphor of stones and spit suggests that they're worthless. So that means these worldly concerns are worthless for true Dharma practitioners, not for worldly people. Worldly people, these are not worthless. But for us, worthless. But at this moment, we'll not be able to free our mind from these things. But as a practitioner, we should try to, I always say, have less attachment, be content. If you become a famous without like bad intention, just naturally you become a famous, good, no problem. Nothing wrong with it. But in order to become famous, you just do bad things and all that is wrong. That's what Atiśa says here. But at this moment, we are um, not able to um, leave these things behind. Especially, we can't leave our happiness and well-being behind as a Milarepa and Longchenpa did. Impossible. As it mentioned above, Atiśa said, if you practice Dharma wholeheartedly, your livelihood and well-being happens incidentally, right? But right now, our mind doesn't have that kind of, how do I say, strength and um, determination. We don't want to take that kind of risk. That's okay, I think. But try to, as a practitioner, we should try to have less attachment and anger and all that kind of things. We don't have to really uh, leave, you know, our happiness, well-being, all these things behind and kind of try to follow Milarepa, Longchenpa like that. It's impossible, especially in this degeneration time. That's okay. Don't worry. The 10th advice is the future is much longer than the present. So store up your wealth for the long journey ahead. Since everything is left behind at the end, nothing can be done about it. So don't be attached to anything. This verse is a teaching on the importance of preparing for the future beyond this life. So, from the Buddhist viewpoint, our future is much longer than this life because the future is beyond death. But it's really up to us how we work with our journey through this life and experiences. Therefore, we have to be prepared for the long journey ahead. It says, store up your wealth for the long journey ahead. This doesn't mean material wealth, but instead means spiritual wealth. Spiritual wealth, we have to store up our spiritual wealth for the long journey ahead. It's about developing inner qualities that lead to wisdom and liberation from suffering. And this is the only thing that continues to go with us beyond this life, according to Buddhism. So we must cultivate qualities that will support us beyond death. In Buddhism, attachment is considered one of the greatest causes of suffering in this and our future lives. That's why Atiśa says, don't be attached to anything. Because attachment prevents us from seeing the truth of things as they are. The more attached we are, the more bound we are to worldly things. And that is a big obstacle for our practice. So therefore, attachment is harmful. It keeps us bound to worldly desires and clinging. Then there is no opportunity to recognize and to experience this truth and develop these qualities. That's why attachment is considered one of the greatest cause of suffering. So this stanza, two things: store up your wealth, spiritual wealth, for the long journey ahead, and don't be attached to anything. That's it. Now the next advice is cultivate compassion for those lower and never insult and look down on them. Do not be partial, having thoughts of either attachment or anger towards enemies and friends. This verse teaches the importance of equanimity in relationships. There are different people with different cultures and different beliefs. People think differently about purpose of life based on their values, goals, and experiences. So it says, cultivate compassion for those lower and never insult and look down on them. This refers to people who may be socially, economically, or in any way less fortunate than you. Looking down on others creates arrogance and ego, selfishness, which can be allowed in Buddhist practice. True wisdom and compassion arise when we treat them with impartial kindness and recognize that all sentient beings are equal in their desire to be happy. the purpose of life is to have joy, peace, happiness, and satisfaction, and helping others based on our capacity. These are the purpose of life. That is how you practice Buddhism, and that is the purpose of your life. So people should respect and be kind to each other and avoiding actions that could damage someone's feelings. As a Buddhist practitioner, we should treat all people equally, but negative people, we should avoid negative company. That doesn't mean forever, but still will be like kind and we should see, people are equally without showing sort of bias. In Mahayana Buddhism, we are not allowed to have discrimination or treat others unfairly. We are focused on generating bodhicitta. So we should respect and be kind to each other. Atiśa advised us, don't be partial and never insult and look down on others who are lower than us. It's such important advice because this can lead to feelings of depression and anxiety, and also can damage relationships and communities. They not only harm those who are the sort of direct targets, but also create division among society or Sangha communities. But unfortunately, this is happening, and then it seems getting worse and worse. So I think this advice, Atiśa advice, is very important to keep in our mind and to remember and practice as much as we can. That's important. The next advice is don't be jealous of those with good qualities. Be respectful instead and learn from them. Do not find fault with others. Find the faults in yourself and remove them, like you purge yourself of bad blood. Do not think about your own good. Think about the good of others and treat everyone with respect as a servant of all. Consider all beings as your parents and care for them with the love of a child. This verse emphasizes self-improvement. Don't be jealous of those with good qualities. Jealousy is a bad human emotion, like anger or sadness. It's an uncomfortable emotion, right? But we feel jealous when we focus too much on what others have that we don't, instead of being grateful for our own strengths and positive qualities. Jealousy diminishes when we understand someone else's success doesn't take away from our own potential. Appreciating your own strengths and accepting your own positive qualities can help reduce jealousy. So, from the Buddhist point of view, recognizing your feelings can help reduce jealousy. Like when you feel neglected or unimportant, you feel jealousy. It's important to talk about it with that person in a constructive way, because this person may not even be aware of your feelings. So, working through jealousy requires open communication and building trust. In Buddhism, we should first examine ourselves and work on improving our own behaviors rather than finding fault with others and blaming others. And when we focus on our own faults, we become more aware that everyone has their own struggles. That makes it easier to be compassionate rather than judgmental. So, recognizing our own faults can help us be more understanding and less crucial of others. So, when we stop blaming others and focus on things we can change within ourselves, we take back control of our emotional well being instead of being frustrated with others. So, therefore, do not find fault with others, find fault in yourself, remove them. That's what Atiśa says here. And do not think about your own good, because it leads to arrogance and pride and all these things. Think about think about the good of others. Buddha said, change begins with the individual, and be kind to yourself as you work through your own faults. Atiśa says, treat everyone with respect and consider all beings as your parents. This advice encourages us to respect and consider all beings are as our parents. So it means put yourself in their shoes and consider their feelings, you recognize that every being, um, just like your parents, deserves to live without suffering and deserves your kindness and respect. Just as children have a responsibility towards their parents, likewise, we have a responsibility to not harm others. Just as parents often forgive with their children, try to do the same in your relationships with everyone. That's what Atiśa says here. And this will help in having a peaceful life and more harmonious relationships, not only with human beings, but all living beings, including the environment around us, with respect. Consider all beings as our parents. Recognize that we all depend on each other in this life. Okay, great advice. So don't be jealous of those with good qualities. Be respectful. Uh, don't find problems with others. Find problems with yourself and change them as a Dharma practitioner. And think about good of others and with respect. Consider all beings as your child, as your parents. If you do this, all this changes and bring good qualities in our life, in our mind. So, as I said, please keep and remember the essence of these teachings, okay? Otherwise, then, then we have tried to like keep and practice the essence of these teachings in everyday life. Okay, let's 13th advice. Maybe we meditate a little bit here. Okay, meditate on bodhicitta with since Atiśa advice here, kindness and respect and consider all beings as your parents and as your child and all that. So we should meditate on bodhicitta with purification practice. Little bit here, okay? It is a powerful way to cleanse obscurations and commitment to beneficial all beings. So again, when you meditate, sitting comfortable with uh, straight your back. Take a few deep breaths and allow your mind to settle. Then reflect all beings, including animals, just like you, me, wish to be free from suffering. But due to negative karma, obscurations, we continue to wander in this samsara. So say like, I will purify, not just for myself, but for all beings. And imagine your meditation is not just for yourself, but for all sentient beings. With that sort of recognition, with that good wish, good thoughts, visualization, um, meditate bodhicitta. And then also, like when you sit down and meditate bodhicitta, visualize your personal refuge, your personal protector in front of you, either the three jewels, or Buddha, or Vajrasattva, Padmasambhava, and visualize all beings are around of you. And then imagine from your protector a stream of pure light, radiant, enters your body through your head and filling every part of your body and also around all others around you. As it flows, visualize all your and others' obscurations completely dissolving and feel your body and mind becoming clear and more luminous with every breath. So visualize, for example, Buddha in front of you as object of your meditation and for blessing. And then pure light, radiant from the Buddha's heart, enter your body, enter your all others around you, and purified all obscurations, obstacles. Sometimes I visualize syllables, like a syllable or like hong syllable, made of light, white light, you know, visualize that. I mean, enters into my heart from the Buddha, whatever, whoever you visualize from this, from them, and then syllable kind of enter into my heart, and I keep it that for a day. That helps tremendously whenever I do, makes, you know, my heart kind of like, I feel like warm, and makes like mindful whatever I do. So I just visualize that a syllable or my teacher sometimes, made of light, sparkling, and then keep that in my heart during the day, all day. Keep that. That makes my body like really pure. I mean, I feel my body is very pure. So then whenever I go outside and people see me, like I feel really good because, they don't see me as a ordinary, full of negative and unpure body. I feel like they will see me as a bodhisattva, pure, positive, because of in my heart, the syllable or Buddha or my teacher alive in my heart. That brings really confidence that whoever see me is beneficial. But especially when this time, like you either visualize light or syllable or whatever, imagine the nectar of light becoming even more sort of radiant, completely purifying you and all beings around. So just try to forget of yourself. You just completely become a different person if you do this. Because of this, in your heart, there is this natural, like pure awareness, which is this light or syllable or Buddha, real Buddha living in your heart and radiate enters your body and purifying all these negativities. And then you feel like deep relief and joy that your obscurations have been purified and freed from suffering and filled with light of Bodhicitta or light of your teachers or Buddha. So you are not a ordinary person. So meditate like that and then just relax right there, and you breathe naturally, gently, and experience relaxation and peace. Okay?